John Miglosh for the WDMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing. This may be one of the more important talks that you'll see today. I think it's crucial to understand why direct marketing beats big data. We're going to talk about big data fail today. Okay, got it? CIO Magazine got 1,650 responses to a survey on big data and found that 2/3 are getting little or no benefit. 2/3 of those who implemented are getting little or no benefit out of their big data. Those responses came from all across a variety of industries. There was no big pattern. All industries are basically frustrated, and CIO said they treat data as a byproduct. I read, a dozen other articles that talked about the failure, almost universal failure of big data. And the two main points were that we don't get the right data and we don't ask the right questions. Now, part of that's because it's an epistemological nightmare to try to use data to see into the future. All data is historical. All strategic questions are in the future. What should I invest in? What new product is going to invigorate my company? What color to make it? What size to make it? All of these questions are out in the future. Okay? And typically the big data projects are run by IT who are procedural. They want to specify the project, so they don't even know what to do when you say, well, I don't know yet because I'm not there. It's for the future. That's great. And so it's just a disaster. But the other problem is that the more data you have, people think, well, we don't have the right data, so if we have more data and more data and more data, it'll get easier. But the truth is, the more data you have, the more spurious correlations that you will uncover. What do I mean by that? Well, here's a great website that I've ran across. And it's called Spurious Correlations. You can Google it. And it shows you all kinds of information that you never knew. Here, for example, is the per capita cheese consumption correlated with the number of people who died by becoming tangled in their bed sheets. It's a 94% correlation. Goes up really nicely together for 10 years running. Here's the divorce rate in Maine going down and the per capita consumption of margarine going down, which in the dairy state, Wisconsin DMA, we love that. Here's the age of Miss America, correlated with murders by hot steam, revenue generated by arcades with computer science doctorates, 98.5% correlation. I like this one because it goes up and down nicely. Worldwide non-commercial space launches correlated with sociology doctorates. That's only a 79%. Per capita consumption of mozzarella cheese with civil engineering doctorates awarded. There's got to be a reason for that. Well, no. But the problem that we're seeing here is that spurious correlations are just that. They're a data feature. They're a feature of comparing enough things that you're going to find something that moves together at the same rate. Does that mean it's connected? Not only there isn't a causal implication, you just scratch your head and say, I don't even know how you figured this out. That's what happens. The more data you have, the more spurious correlations you have. Okay? And you need a way to sort that out. And data will not help you. Okay, so why does big data fail? Data fails because it starts with data. If you hire a data scientist, I would contend that by definition he's not a scientist. Because science starts with observation. Remember sophomore year high school biology? Observation. Then hypothesis. So you say, okay, why are polar bears white? I don't know. Maybe because they reflect the heat better. So it keeps them cool. No, they live in the Arctic. That's probably not the hypothesis. Maybe they can hunt better because they blend in, because it's a lot of white around them most of the time. Okay, that's feasible. Okay, so how can we study that? That's where we come up with the experiment. What we're going to do is we're going to take the hypothesis of they blend into the white environment, and we're going to challenge it. We're going to come up with something hypothetical to test the hypothesis. You got it? So now we say, oh, let's go get a grizzly bear. they're black or brown. Let's bring them up to the Arctic and let them loose and see how they do in in hunting. Well, that could work. They could starve to death, but there could be another factor involved. Okay, because they might be looking for white-tailed deer or looking for berries and fruits that they would normally eat, and there aren't any of those, so they die because they're just looking for the wrong kind of stuff. Better would be to spray paint a polar bear black so that their behaviors would be the same, their hunting technique would be the same, everything would be the same except the color. And that would answer the question. Now, don't worry, there's plenty of polar bears. There's like double or triple what there were 40 years ago. It's just overrun with polar bears up in the Arctic. So no matter what you see on TV, there's plenty of polar bears. We're going to spray one black, and it's in the interest of science. So we create this experiment, we let it loose, and we see if it hunts poorer than the other white polar bears. What you see is that we're now creating this hypothetical black polar bear, and we can wait till one happens in the wild, but it might take a long time. So instead, we're going to just take a white one that was surviving fine and make it black. We're going to create hypothetical conditions that match our hypothesis, and we're going to generate data to see how it did. Do you understand the power of that? Do you understand what we're doing? It's not just the data that comes flowing in. It's not just the data that we pile up. We're directing the data process, which is the scientific method. And that is the key reason why big data fails, because they think that they can take historical data and look into the future. But we know that in order to look into the future, you have to set it up right. You have to set it up for isolation of causes, and you repeat it. So one polar bear survives, one dies. You find out black isn't that big a deal. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe you have to run 100 polar bears to find out that it gives them, a 20% lower survival rate, which in times of stress or climate change could be a tipping point. But right now it's fine because there's plenty of polar bears. Okay, so in conclusion, the good questions deal with the future and things outside of your company. Should we make this in silver? Should we make this in black? Should we make the nice little hinge on the top? Or should we make a cheaper pop-open lid? Those kinds of what-if questions are not answered by data that you already have. General Motors flew me over, General Motors credit card, and he said, who would have bought a car without the $5,000 rebate? Who would have bought one anyway? That would have been a great question to ask before they told everybody that you automatically get the $5,000 rebate. Once they tell it, now the historical data only has the people who bought. It doesn't have who would have bought. We have to set up a different condition. We have to take the hypothesis and create that hypothetical contrast to isolate causal variables. Okay, so marketing is the place where your data is going to make money. In order to make money with data, you have to make an offer. In order to have the right data, you have to make offers that are set up right to learn answers. Okay, so you start with observation, then you go to experiment. It's all about direct marketing. This is what direct marketers have been doing for decades and decades. And the sad and scary part is that just because this has fallen out of favor because of big data, all of a sudden it's no longer relevant. It's more relevant today than it was in the 80s. Because in the 80s, there were practitioners who illustrated it over and over and over. There are still some, but they're getting old. They're getting white beards. They're getting sick of fighting this battle, which is why I'm here to fight it for them. Okay, so conclusion, direct marketing beats big data. If you want more and more and more case studies, if you want to hear about somebody who's made money with data over and over and over and over in all different kinds of industries, I recommend my book, Spinning Straw into Gold. It's available on Amazon or in paperback or on Kindle. You'll love it. Give me a call. We'll talk some more. If you were in my office today, I tell you how you could benefit from more direct marketing, not less. More direct marketing. Don't worry so much about the data. check out the WDMA.org for some great articles on this topic. I'm John Miglash for the WDMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing.